How's it going, everybody? My name is Infamous Isaac, and I'm here with a video on the Star Wars prequel trilogy, the Anakin Skywalker trilogy, that covers The Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, and Revenge of the Sith, all in one video. Because I watched all these movies together with a friend today, back to back to back, and I'm here to talk about them now before I forget what happened. So, without further ado, let me give you all my ratings first. So, Phantom Menace is a 6 to a 7. On its worst, it's a 6. At its best, it's a 7. I definitely say it's the worst one out of the trilogy, and not to demean it, but I'll explain later when I go into it. Attack of the Clones is an 8.5 to a 9. I really like this one. I really, really like this one. And Revenge of the Sith is a 9.5. It's amazing. It's great. So if you wanted my ratings, for my friends who are interested, that's what they are. And if you want to leave the video now, by all means, you can go ahead. But right now, I'm gonna go and explain everything about why I like these movies, why I didn't like these movies, so on and so forth. So, without further ado, let's get into it. So, number one, Phantom Menace. So, The Phantom Menace is the beginning of the prequels where you have all this stuff going on with Qui-Gon Jinn, Obi-Wan Kenobi, the Jedi, and the Republic. It's a bunch of politics. And I'm not good with politics. I'm like Obi-Wan Kenobi. I'd rather stay out of politics. I'm too soft for it. Overall, this movie had an interesting plot because you have Qui-Gon Jinn taking care of the princess of Nobu or Nubu. Well, I don't even remember what the planet's called, but the place where Padme is from. And along the way, they meet Anakin, and they help defeat the droids. And that's basically what it is as far as the plot goes. Because you have Anakin doing a droid race, all that when he's a kid. You have Padme and her, or excuse me, and him building up a relationship. You have young Obi-Wan Kenobi. You have Qui-Gon Jinn. You have Darth Maul. Oh, excuse me, younger Yoda. You have Mace Windu, bro. Kiadi Mundi. All these people. You have Palpatine. All these people, right? And it's just crazy. It's legit just crazy looking at how many characters are here because this movie is here for setup, basically. This movie is here to set up the second and third movie, and I'm fine with that, because compared to my least favorite movie in the original trilogy, The Empire Strikes Back, I enjoyed this one more. I had fun with it, and that's because of the times, right? This movie, what was it called? The Phantom Menace was made in 1999, so it had a way better CGI. The CGI reminds me of Spy Kids 3, but more like Spy Kids 3 than it was in The Empire Strikes Back and there you go. A New Hope. A New Hope, that's what it's called. Episode 4 is A New Hope. Phantom Menace it has way better CGI, so it already has points towards me. The movie when you were looking at the CGI in terms of the cities looked so good. The cities actually looked so good. They were impressive, they were beautiful, they were vast and they were grand. You felt like you were in a city, even though for the most part you were only in like 3 to 4 different places. Because when you were in the city in the where the Jedi Temple was, you were in that city, you were in Anakin's home spot, and you were in the Chancellor's headquarters, and that's basically it. Oh, and the Senate meetings, but that's it. They weren't much else. You didn't explore the city, none of that. You were just going through those 4 scenes, maybe some more. But besides that, like every place that you went to in those cities, like Tatooine, or any place that I could remember the name of, but I can't remember the name of. Like Jar Jar Binks's place, that place looked really beautiful. You have the place where Padme's from. You have where the Senate where they're from. You have all those spots, all those places, right? And they look great. They legit look amazing compared to the original trilogy, which of course was made in the 80s. These spots look amazing. They look awesome, and I love it. The CGI, bar none, has improved. But next, let me go into the negatives before I go back into the positives. The CGI is also still kind of like because some of them look really bad if you focus on it for too much. While some of the CGI looks amazing in this movie, some of the CGI doesn't look amazing, and that's also because it's 1999. It gets better later on, but for this being the first movie, for like episode one and all that, it kind of looks stinky in some spots. But it's, it's something you can look past. You'll notice it when you notice it, and when you do notice it, it's really stinky. But it's whatever. It's completely fine once you get past it. You have the intro and fast pacing. So the intro for me was kind of boring, and that's mostly to say it's not horrendous. It's nowhere near horrendous. Like, let's say in the original trilogy, where I thought most of the intros were kind of slow. Here it's the opposite. These intros are really fast. It was really, really fast. I had no time to adjust to who the characters were and what was going on. I learned what was going on because my friend was telling me. He was like, "Oh, politics, all that, Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon Jinn, all that stuff is going on." And it was great that I had him, but watching it by myself, I would have been lost. I would have been lost unless if I looked up what happened or if I tried to think about it for a little bit more. But the pacing was really fast for the intro, and for that, for me, I was kind of bored because of that at some point. But once we get to Tatooine and we're all there, we it starts getting more interesting for me because that part was fire. But the intro and the fast pacing kind of desensitized me to it, and I got bored at some point. But that besides that, you also have Jar Jar Binks. Jar Jar Binks was annoying in this movie. I did not like Jar Jar Binks much. He had some funny moments, but I'm glad, and I mean really glad that they toned down Jar Jar Binks in the other movies that came after this one, because we had way too much of him, and I legit mean way too much of Jar Jar Binks in this movie. So I'm glad that we don't see much of him afterwards. And granted, I didn't hate him. I didn't hate him at all. I thought he was just a little too much for these movies. He tried to take a spot that C3PO and R2D2 had, but he couldn't. He could not take that spot whatsoever. He was dumb and lucky. And while that works sometimes, it didn't work for him. Like Usopp, he's lucky and a coward just like Jar Jar Binks, but at least Usopp is smart. Usopp is wholeheartedly smart. Jar Jar Binks just has really nothing going for him, except people keep him around for some reason. So I might sound like a resident Jar Jar Binks hater, but I promise you, Jar Jar Binks is alright. I definitely don't hate him at all. I just dislike some of the things that he does and some of the things that he is. But that's why one of the negatives is Jar Jar Binks. But to go back to the positives, Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan, their relationship is fire. I noticed like some hints of Obi-Wan and Anakin in there, but less arrogance and more original Padawan and Jedi Master relationship there. Qui-Gon Jinn is really cool. I really like him. Qui-Gon Jinn is fire. You have young Obi-Wan who is also fire. He has a snarky, witty remarks as always, which is dope. That I like having that in Obi-Wan. Having those remarks in Obi-Wan just make him so cool and original. Instead of just making him all so serious or whatever, because Obi-Wan has his seriousness, but the fact that he's a troll makes it even better because he's not just a wise old master. He's just a fun guy who values his work but also values fun. He's important. He's a really cool guy. Qui-Gon Jinn, kind of like that, a little less trolling, but also he's saucy. Qui-Gon Jinn is fire. I didn't know about him until I watched these movies, but man, I wish I did because he's really cool. Then you have Anakin. Anakin was cool in this movie. Not the best that we see from him, because to me, the best that we see from Anakin is the Revenge of the Sith. But I'll get to that when I get to that. But Anakin here, he's cool. Being a kid, being nice, being cool. He was chill. He was chill. Yeah, Padme, who was a little weird. Their relationship was really, really weird, because it's kind of like Luke and Leia, but not in the sense of like, oh, it's familial. No, it's the fact that Padme is a lot older than Anakin. Anakin is a kid. Anakin is wholeheartedly a kid. So seeing those seeds of a relationship being built is like, oh, Padme, what you got going on? That I'll talk about that later once I get to the other movie. Then you have the pod race. The pod race is fire. Up to that point, when I was watching the movie, the pod race was definitely the best part. I was enjoying it. I was enjoying that pod race. Usually, racing races like that in movies don't excite me much. Like again, the Spy Kids 3 race. But this race here, it was cool. I feel like actually now that I think about it, Spy Kids 3 seems like it was inspired a lot by Star Wars. Like they took a lot of inspiration from it. But maybe I'm just reaching there. I don't know. But the pod race, it was cool. I enjoyed it. Definitely one of the better races I've seen in movies. And for it being all CGI and all that, it was cool. The aliens, by the way, the aliens in this movie compared to the original trilogy look way better. Way, way, way better. Not the best that they could look, but they look way better. And I can say that with certainty. So, and this is before Disney put their money into Lucasfilms. But that's way in the future. I still haven't talked about that trilogy yet. They definitely improved the budget on these movies for sure. Cause man, when you go to the other movies, crazy. You have the music as well. The music, you have Day of Fates when Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon Jinn fight Darth Maul, and I'll get to that in a second. But the music in this movie is great, and that will always be a compliment to all these movies. The music is amazing, and that will never change. The music isn't like some goofy distant cry on the beat type music, which no disrespect to distant cry, he's hilarious. Fitting. It's fitting is what I'm trying to say. But then we actually go to Darth Maul, and having him there, having Darth Maul there, is really cool. I really enjoyed Darth Maul. He was sick. Being what's his face's apprentice, Palpatine's apprentice, he was dope. And he brought one of the best fights in all of Star Wars, to my opinion. Him versus Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan, and then him versus Qui-Gon Jinn and, or yeah, on Tatooine. That fight was fire. I loved both of those fights, and it exemplified one thing about them. The lightsaber duels are at their peak. Wholeheartedly, my friends were telling me like, yeah, the prequel trilogy has the best lightsaber duels, and they were not joking. The lightsaber duels were amazing. Wholeheartedly. That fight, it was so hard to contend with. But then, you have other fights that come along as well. That fight was amazing. That fight was actually amazing. I never thought CGI and real life live action, fights could be so good, but man was I wrong. That fight blew me out of my socks, bro. Actually astounded me. It was amazing. And again, it exemplifies the lightsaber duels, how good they were. I can't say enough about those lightsaber duels. Granted, this movie to me, those setbacks that I mentioned, the negatives, bring it down to a 6.5 to a 7. But that doesn't mean that this movie isn't good. This movie is okay, like alone, but with the rest of the series, it's a 7. It's definitely a 7. Like the worst of Star Wars from what I've seen, it's pretty good still. It's good. But this movie, the negatives still weigh it down. And the fact that it's a basically setup movie for the other two, it doesn't have much to stand on except Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan being cool. The Phantom Menace, like I said in the beginning, 6.5 to 7. It's good, but it's not great. But now let's get to something that is great. So, the Attack of the Clones. Let me start with the negatives right away. Anakin and Padme's relationship in this, like I said in the last one, is weird. Because Anakin is older, but it seems like he's like 16, 17. He seems to be still pretty young. And Padme is still older than Anakin. So having that there is just like, okay, it's a little weird, but they're older now, so whatever, whatever. But Anakin's pretty cringy. Anakin is pretty cringy with some of the lines that he drops. He is thirsty and simping. Wow, that is terrifying. But he is thirsty and he is simping for Padme. There's no way around that. Anakin is a goon. He is on demon time. And that kind of made it weird sometimes going through the scenes like, oh, Anakin, stop. Stop talking. Oh my gosh. And it makes it worse because Anakin has the Padawan cut. He has the buzz cut with the braid on it. It doesn't look that cool. Oh, yeah, it doesn't look that cool. And he's spitting corny lines like that. I was just like, Anakin, please. Where's the unspoken Riz? But, besides that, that's really the only negative. I have the CGI would be something, I guess, like some CGI moments are kind of like, oh, okay, this looks a little weird, but it's nowhere near as bad as the Phantom Menace, nor the original trilogy. So it's hard to put it in the negatives, but I guess I can put it there to dock some points. But I'm basically going to be talking about the positives from here on out. Only the positives. To get into the positives, you have older Anakin and older Obi-Wan, where you have the intro of Anakin and Obi-Wan going to the same spot that Padme's at and protecting her because an assassination attempt was tried on her life. And then after that, you have Anakin going to Tatooine to save his mom because he has to protect Padme, but Padme wants to go rescue his mom. All that stuff happens. Anakin witnesses his mom die in his hands. He now. Stepbrother, yeah, that's what it's called, stepbrother. And all that stuff happens. The Attack of the Clones happens when Obi-Wan finds out that somebody made clones for the Republic, and it turns out it was Count Dooku, and Count Dooku is pretty cool. You have interfered with our affairs for the last time, and good. Twice the pride, the bigger the fall, and all that. But older Anakin and older Obi-Wan, a treat, actually a treat to watch. They're amazing. I love watching older Anakin and older Obi-Wan interact. It's so funny, so tongue-in-cheek. You have Anakin still being his apprentice and Obi-Wan still being the master, but they still have those snarky remarks to each other. It's a good friendship and good relationship. While Anakin can be jealous of Obi-Wan, they still respect each other and love each other. Obi-Wan sees him as a brother, and Anakin sees him as a father. And that's where the problems start. Anakin needed a father, not a brother. Which, well, Anakin did kind of need a brother because, having Obi-Wan's kind of fire. But if Anakin had Qui-Gon Jinn, things would have turned out differently. Way different. But it's no ifs or buts right now. We only gotta talk with the facts. So you have Yoda and Mace Windu. These two are fire. Yoda and Mace Windu are so cool. Actually, so cool. Yoda fighting in this movie was such a surprise. It was actually amazing. Yoda fighting Count Dooku was so fire. Actually, so fire. And I wouldn't trade it for the world. Like, Count Dooku is actually another person I have to talk about, but I'll get to him in a second. Yoda and Mace Windu were really cool. While they are rigid and stuck up, yet Jedi who are, again, stuck in the past, they they are cool for what they are, for sure. We celebrate their lives and look back on the faults that they had and realize things could have been different. And that's why Luke exists. Yoda and Mace Windu, they're pretty fire. Next is Count Dooku. You know, Count Dooku himself is pretty saucy. Count Dooku, Palpatine. You have, yeah, actually, that's it. Count Dooku and Palpatine are really cool. Palpatine just being comically evil. I say this every time we talk about Palpatine, but he's just so evil, it's ridiculous. Like, not like, oh, it ruins the show. No, Palpatine's so evil, but it's so evil in a good way where it works for the story. Not like, oh, he's so evil, he just needs to stop. No, Palpatine is the overarching evil in this entire series, for the most part. So having him there is like, okay. But you have Count Dooku as well. Like all these villains in the three movies, they're all good villains. But you have Palpatine, who's just so crazy evil, but he's the best villain out of all of them. Like he may not be the sauciest like Count Dooku or Darth Maul, or he may not be the scummiest like Grievous, but man, Palpatine is crazy. Palpatine is actually crazy. A shot in the movie that was really good to me. You have or not Obi-Wan, Anakin and Padme on Tatooine, and he goes to his brother, stepbrother, and they have a shot where they're standing outside of the hut, the sand hut, and you see their shadows on the hut, but only the shadows, and it's one of the best shots I've seen from Star Wars ever. It was so good. That shot surprised me so much. It was like a Breaking Bad shot, bro. It was crazy. It was actually crazy. Next, we have the music. That fight, or not that fight. The music was great as always. There's not much to say on it. The music is always good. They played the music that played against Darth Maul, which I think is Duel of Fates. They played that song again in this movie, so that's amazing. You have, or actually no, yeah, these go hand in hand. Jeez, the cinematography in this movie is great, and that is exemplified wholeheartedly on the Battle of Geonosis, where Obi-Wan gets captured when he tries to chase. Uh, I forgot what this dude's name is. Where Obi-Wan chases Jango Fett onto Geonosis, and we find out that Count Dooku is there, and Anakin and Padme go over there. They're all about to be executed, and then everybody pulls up, like Mace Windu, Yoda, all the clones that they got from the who made the clones. And by the way, when I say clones, it's not just a title. They are actually clones. They are actually clones of people, and they're subservient to the Republic. But they show up to Geonosis and they start boxing. They just start boxing. And that Battle of Geonosis was so cool. It was actually so cool. Like you have the battle in the first movie where it's the Jar Jar Binks' tribe versus the droids, and that was cool. But it wasn't as big of a larger scale like this battle on Geonosis, where the CGI takes most of the brunt work or the grunt work, excuse me. But man, the CGI here looks good enough to just be crazy, bro. Like it looks so good. And the fact that the clones look exactly the way that they do from Clone Wars themselves, it makes it even better because Clone Wars was the first thing that I learned about Star Wars when I was a kid because I had an Anakin statue. I don't know, remember if it was the movie or Clone Wars, but when I was growing up, Clone Wars was on TV, so it made it even better. But the Battle of Geonosis, or on Geonosis, was fire. Actually fire. And it just shows that the battles, because of the CGI and all the acting and the budget and all that, are on a larger scale. And with all that combined, all of those good things combined, my time with this movie, I have to give it a 9. This movie was amazing. Like an 8.5 to a 9. The Attack of the Clones is when I finished watching it, I told my friend literally because me, him, and our another friend of ours were on a Discord call, and they asked me like, "Yo, so what'd you think of the movie?" And I was like, "This movie is tied with me for the best movie for sure. The only one that's stopping it is the Return of the Jedi, and that's it." But then I watched Revenge of the Sith, which is the next one I'm going to be talking about. Revenge of the Sith negatives, there are none. I couldn't find any negatives. So let's go into the positives. Strong start, really strong start. Oh, actually, the negatives. Grievous was alright. Like this movie, it didn't get me at a 10 out of 10 level. Star Wars movie that will get close to a 10 out of 10, but it's not a 10 out of 10 for me. It's definitely a 9 for sure. Or these movies, I can see why some people would say it's a 9 or a 10. The same way I would see people saying that Breaking Bad is a 10 out of 10 show. But for me, I can't bring myself to say it's a 10, but I can bring myself to say it's a wholehearted 9 for sure. It is almost perfect. For me, I was a little bored in the part where Obi-Wan was fighting Grievous, like that area. But, like it was cool. It was cool, but it wasn't the best for me. But Grievous himself, I remember him from Clone Wars. He was pretty cool. But compared to the other two villains of Count Dooku and Darth Maul, he was definitely the worst, but that's just because he's scummy. General Grievous will do anything to win. He's not a Sith, but he is scummy, wholeheartedly scummy. Next, you have again the strong start that the movie having Anakin and Obi-Wan fight Count Dooku and having Anakin kill Count Dooku. That was fire. That the movie definitely had the best start out of the entire Star Wars 2 trilogies that I watched. So I can say that with certainty. Revenge of the Sith had the best start. Then you go to adult Anakin and Obi-Wan. Man, adult Anakin and Obi-Wan is so fun to watch because you go from Anakin being a kid and Obi-Wan being his master to Anakin being a young adult and Obi-Wan being his master, aka, Anakin being a Padawan, to Anakin basically being a master and Obi-Wan being his equal. They're both equals and they're good friends. Obi-Wan and Anakin have a brotherly bond and it's amazing to see. It's so fire. But again, that thing comes up. Anakin needed a father and not a brother. And Palpatine definitely filled that role. And man, before I move on to Palpatine, Obi-Wan and Anakin's relationship is amazing. The same things I mentioned before, quirky, witty remarks, them just being cool partners all together, and their trust and faith in each other, fire. But Palpatine, evil, sinister, diabolical. He is a fiend. He is wholeheartedly a fiend. Palpatine is a fiend and the best villain in the entire Star Wars thing, besides like Darth Vader himself. But man, Darth Vader is so good. Darth Vader is really good because when you look at Darth Vader outside of Star Wars, like, oh, that man is a threat, bro. Darth Vader is a villain and he will kill you if he sees you. But seeing the creation of Darth Vader, it's rough. You all you feel for is the sympathy for Anakin. And it sucks, right? It sucks because you're witnessing Anakin turn into Darth Vader or Lord Vader. It just hurts. It hurts so much. But yeah, if Anakin and Padme's relationship, it went from being a negative to being a positive. Having Anakin and Padme have a secret wedding in the last movie and then bringing it in here, showing that Padme was basically Anakin's last support system besides Obi-Wan. And even then, if Padme wasn't there, Anakin probably either A, would have never went to the dark side, or B, would have gone to the dark side faster. Because Anakin went to the dark side because of Padme. She or he saw a vision of her dying in her birth, but he didn't want that to happen because he saw a vision of his mother dying as well, which was out of his control. But with Padme dying in birth, it wasn't out of his control. Anakin caused it to happen because now that he tried to stop it from happening, he fulfilled it. It became true. He didn't change fate. He accelerated it. And man, oh man, that hurt to watch. Holy. Anakin basically accelerating Padme's death destroyed me. Actually destroyed me. It didn't bring me to tears, but it almost did. But something else brought me to tears. I'll talk about that later. But Anakin and Padme's relationship, pretty cool. Darth Plagueis, that story that Palpatine gave to Anakin, shoot, man. That gives you chills. Because then my friend told me, like, oh, shoot, yeah, so Darth Plagueis is actually Palpatine's master. And Palpatine killed him in his sleep. So the story of Dark Plagueis is basically Palpatine killing him and succeeding. Because there's the rule of twos in ifs where you have to have the master and the apprentice. And either the apprentice has to die or the master gets killed by the apprentice and the apprentice succeeds his knowledge. Basically making the knowledge of the dark side stronger in turn. But Palpatine wasn't really stronger, he was just Storm Trance, Warlock, and all that. But that's besides the point. Palpatine is crazy. Palpatine is pretty crazy. But you go on to Padme again. Padme overall, in general, she was really good in this movie. I think she's better than Leia overall. I think she's better than most romantic interests that I've seen. She's good. Padme is really good. Then you go on to Yoda versus Palpatine and Anakin versus Obi-Wan. By the way, the story for this movie was great. Order 66 was harrowing. Actually, so hard to watch. Because you have Mace Windu falling from the window because Anakin defeated him. And Mace Windu almost killed Palpatine. He won Palpatine. But Anakin stopped him. And things would have not happened if Anakin just let Mace Windu kill him. But he didn't. Anakin was too confused and blinded, clouded by Palpatine's whisperings in his ear. to see what happened. Palpatine was using him the whole time. Palpatine was using him, and we all know that, but Anakin didn't, and it led to Anakin, the strongest Force user on that side, turning over to the dark side. And it led to two of the best fights in the entire series, which for me, I have to admit these fights are they're better than Darth Maul versus Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan. But man, it's hard to say that because oh man, I really like those fights. But Obi-Wan versus Anakin and Yoda versus Palpatine were some of the best fights I've ever seen. In live action, they were amazing. Actually, some of the best fights I've ever seen. Yoda versus Palpatine is so cool because you see them fighting in Palpatine's chambers, and he's just boxing. They're both boxing using the Force and all that, and then they go to the lightsabers and then they just start boxing. While Yoda isn't as good as Mace Windu to take him down in terms of like power, Yoda is wise. He's wise and he's cunning, so he can definitely beat Palpatine. He couldn't beat him there, and he fails. Yoda failed to beat Palpatine. But man, their fight was awesome. Their fight was so good. Oh my gosh. Yoda and Palpatine fighting on the Senate chair and them rising up into the Senate room, seeing all of that and seeing the room be destroyed by Palpatine's force. It was so fire, bro. It was so cool. And then Yoda failing. It hit me after he was leaving with Organa, there you go. Organa is Leia's father, by the way. Not because Anakin isn't the father, but because he adopted her. But Yoda failed. Yoda wholeheartedly failed. And it hit me once he was in the pod with Organa how he failed. And now there's no hope. Because if he killed Palpatine there, things could have been stopped. But he didn't. And he couldn't. Now he had to exile himself. And the Empire was formed. Not the Republic, but the Empire. And that hit so hard for me, bro. Like, shoot. W- There was obviously a bunch of stuff that could have happened to stop what's his face from taking over, but Yoda killing Palpatine would have been one of them. One of them wholeheartedly that could have stopped it, and it could have stopped Anakin from doing so many things, so many more things that could have happened. But he failed. And then you go to Obi-Wan versus Anakin, and Obi-Wan did not fail. And man, Mustafar being the final spot for them to fight was a good choice. The lava, the dark setting, the hatred and vitriol that Anakin has in his face. Oh my gosh, bro! The actors Hayden Christensen and I don't remember who plays Obi-Wan, but they both did such a great job. They both did such a great job conveying the pain in both of their faces. Like you can feel how much Anakin hates Obi-Wan, but that's just because he's been manipulated and corrupted. And Obi-Wan just feels so sad. He lost his brother. A whole friendship, a whole brotherhood ended because of Palpatine. All because of Palpatine. It's all his fault. But that fight was amazing. All that was amazing, man. Overall, I have to say this movie was definitely the best one. Actually, the best movie out of all of the Star Wars uh, six movies that I watched. I still haven't watched, I haven't watched the sequel trilogy, but I can say wholeheartedly that it's gonna take a lot, and I mean a lot, to surpass Revenge of the Sith because that movie was really good. But overall, this trilogy was way better than the original trilogy. I can see why so many people love Star Wars now. This trilogy was fire. It was awesome. It was amazing. It was so fun to watch. It had its ups, it had its downs, but at its peak, it was one of the best things in fiction I've ever seen. Star Wars, the prequel trilogy with the Phantom Menace. You have Attack of the Clones, and you have Revenge of the Sith. All three of those movies are amazing. Actually amazing altogether. Perfect trilogy. Actually perfect trilogy. Even though Phantom Menace could have been better, actually perfect trilogy. It was so good, so good. So overall, the all three of the what's it called, that the prequel trilogy are ahead above the what's it called, the normal trilogy. By the way, if you can't tell, I'm sick. I'm really sick, so that might affect how I'm talking right now. There's gonna be a lot of ums in this video that I'm gonna have to cut out, but I'm still gonna upload it. This is honestly surprisingly shorter than I thought it was gonna be. I thought it was gonna be like 50 minutes, but it might even be reduced to like 30 minutes because I stuttered a lot. But, that's gonna be it for me for now. Hope y'all enjoyed. Thank y'all for watching, and I'll see you all later. This has been Infamous Isaac talking about the Star Wars prequel trilogy. It was so much fun, and next time I talk about Star Wars is gonna be the sequel trilogy with Rey Skywalker, I think. I don't remember. But I no Ray Skywalker. I don't know whoever they are. Shoot. We'll see what happens because a lot of people don't like them. I just have to see why people don't like them. But I'll see you all later. Hope y'all have a good rest of your night because I'm recording this like 12 in the morning. But yeah, hope y'all have a great rest of your day. Peace.